Have you experienced an odd tension with someone who is nice but something feels strange underneath? Especially as we age, our sensitivity increases to minor changes in the way we are treated, and regretfully, not all of the changes originate from some people fall in love out of jealousy or resentment. Even from long-suppressed animosity that eventually appears when they believe we are too exhausted. Carl Jung is too old or too slow to notice. Famously remarked, everything that annoys us concerning other people can result in incomprehension of ourselves. However, the contrary of what people say is also true. The actions around us frequently expose their unspoken reality of how people actually emotions, and those unspoken realities as we get older gotten more difficult to overlook. In today's video we will examine 7 silent indicators that someone nearby might covertly dislike or even despise you, but combine it with civility or, worse, passive aggressiveness. Although these indicators are minor, they're crucial because if you can identify them early, you safeguard more than just your heart, but your time, your dignity, and your calm. So if you're 60, 70, or even 80 when you've begun to observe others being a little different with you, slightly chilly or somewhat more, this video is for you. Dismissively. You're not delusional, and you sign 1 to avoid having to put up with it. Brief periods of coldness. There's a specific type of quiet that doesn't feel calm, but it feels sharp, as when you enter a room, someone pauses conversing, or when you make a playful comment, and it thuds to the ground. No eye contact, no laughter, just that blank pause that causes you to reconsider if you made a mistake. And these aren't only minor uncomfortable situations, they are signs of something more serious. Carl Jung frequently stated that what individuals withhold provides you with information on what they express, and those that are hidden as one ages. Unspoken remarks have a deeper impact than spoken ones. Compared to insults, you might see that someone who checked in frequently now hardly ever do they answer your calls or texts. They pretend to be busy with delay or lack of interest. Avoid loitering around when you're around. Talk or don't inquire about your well-being, accomplishing more than what appears to be as though they're simply distracted, but in truth coldness is a subdued manifestation of the cause of emotional distancing, and it's so typical among older people that some people begin to depreciate, whether they realize it or not. People who are unable to provide them with something in return, regardless of whether it's status, money, or there was an elderly man there. Frank, age 81, was an avid fisherman. With his nephew each weekend, but once after selling his boat and retiring, Frank wasn't Uncle Fun with gear is no longer. His nephew stopped visiting. No argument, no drama, only silence that spoke. Frank had all the information he required. To this is an emotional wound. Invisibility. When a close person begins acting as though your presence is superfluous, such as your voice doesn't, either your stories or your weight bore them. Frequently based on implicit judgment, and usually, it originates from bitterness. They haven't had the guts to convey. What's crucial is that you do not take this personally as your fault. The older you get, the more you need to safeguard your energy, which includes being aware of when to cease contacting those who encounter your generosity with chilly indifference. Is not always inactive. Occasionally, it's calculated, and it's an obvious indication that someone doesn't perceive you as worthwhile no longer. Believe that sensation, speaking with wisdom, and if someone is displaying to you this peaceful distance sign too, believe them the first time. Passive comments and subtle undermining. Sometimes hatred doesn't wear a frown. It is cloaked in a grin and civility. Or what people like to refer to as simply being sincere. You can tell by the tone they use when they offer feedback on your selections. At your age, you still drive? Oh, I didn't. You should be able to utilize that app. You recall that I was present at the time? These remarks might not seem like much, yet they cause a persistent sting, and when they begin to accumulate, they create a image of a person who lacks admiration yet secretly hates you. Carl Jung felt that the veiled shadow, a person's unconscious part, frequently holds feelings that people are too embarrassed to acknowledge. As you get older and more knowledgeable, these shadows can be roused by existence. People, particularly if you are present, makes them think about how old they are. Constraints or shortcomings that cause them distress may manifest as snarky remarks. Comments that make small fixes or jokes at your cost, but don't be fooled by this. It is emotive rather than merely playful. Photo of deterioration of Linda, 78, who had a they would meet Janet, a lifetime friend. Weekly lunches, but as Linda began to age more elegantly while actively learning how to paint while grinning more, Janet started to take shots at you. Your son is still bothered by cosmetics. Purchased, you must be attempting to create. It must be pleasant to still be up for something. Possess the stamina to get out and about. Linda would initially dismiss it with a joke, but each time the warmth was eroded by the comment between them up until the time when friendship started to feel like competition. This is how passive hostility can be dangerous. It doesn't make a big announcement. It progressively fills a container by dripping like a tap. These folks aren't in a room full of stress, eager to cause you direct harm that would be too hazardous and too blatant instead. They attempt to erode your self-esteem. Slowly, in the hopes that you won't notice. However, you always do, and this is why they urge you to question yourself. They want you to get slightly smaller so they may feel larger than they actually are. Friendship that isn't a form of love, Jung cautioned of a covert kind of sabotage. In this scenario, when individuals are unable to confront their own internal turmoil, they project it onto those who appear happy, self-assured, or they are unable to celebrate because they are free. Your tranquility, since it makes them think of their own turmoil, so if someone near you seems to have stuff with you all the time, sarcastic to state that correction is always necessary, your recollection consistently draws attention to faults hidden behind the jokes. Have faith in that pattern. It's not playfully mocking, it's disdain attempting to remain anonymous because you deserve people who give you life without asking. Every action you take safeguards your vitality, and keep in mind that their remarks aren't concerning. It concerns what they haven't concluded on their own. If you're still viewing this video and discovering these excellent insights, kindly provide the comment number 2 below to inform me of your presence, and in case you haven't signed up yet, I advise you to sign up and activate the bell to ensure that you don't miss any of your support. It enables us to keep producing quality material to educate and motivate you right now. Let's go and sign the 3 absences. Moments that are important. Occasionally what you can learn more from someone who doesn't do. They don't call you when you're doing ill. They fail to attend your birthday. They don't inquire how your doctor is on your birthday. Visit even though they were aware that you should avoid checking in after losing a pet or a husband or your stability in a difficult day, and eventually, that quiet speaks. Carl Jung's voice was louder than words could possibly be. I felt that what we ignore shows our top priorities. When someone consistently does not appear for you, not only in lavish displays but also in the small, they convey a message in ordinary ways. Your well-being is not a priority. Doesn't spark your pain or move them, even when it might not feel like hatred in its loud, dramatic form. A type of emotional desertion and repeated abandonment can be quite painful. Like bitterness, let's discuss Robert 82. The home collapsed as his wife passed. Quiet friends dropped by, neighbors offered meals, but he had assisted his niece. Raising didn't call on that particular day or a week later, even though he gently "I apologize, Uncle Rob. I've just been so busy that she didn't have time to post. Going out with pals or using social media or keep up with every new program, but she was also busy to see how the man who purchased her is doing books and guided her along the aisle. That isn't a sign of forgetting. When people are concerned, they find a way. And it's not always the case when they don't because they are malevolent or evil. Occasionally, it's because they're silent. Withdrawing their affection, their endeavor to revoke their regard, they are allowing their friendship to wane. Not because of their failure to water it, but since they no longer desired to. According to Jung, when a person is unable to love a portion of themselves, such as their own loneliness or reliance as they age, they might start to turn away anyone who reminds everyone, including you, of it, so they withdraw, halt, and check in. Care, since being in your presence compels them to confront aspects of life that they haven't accepted, that it's more than just neglect. It hurts because it's resistance. It can hurt more to be neglected than at least getting shouted at. When someone shouts, you know you're important enough to stir, quiet but feeling, like if you've become imperceptible, much like your presence has become a hassle, you're entitled to. You deserve better than those who don't forget you're there when times are tough. You are worthy of eternal warmth. Whenever you require it, and if someone continues vanishing while you're depressed yet appears when they require assistance from you, think that love doesn't follow patterns. When things are hard, hide. When you experience resentment, frigid separation from someone who used to feel, keep in mind that this is not your fault. They are unable to accept your aging. Your strength or your fragility, their shadow, not yours, to contend with. Convey 4 backhanded compliments with the sign. And subtle insults are among the most revealing indications that someone has resentment, particularly as you become older, isn't in both their words and their delivery. They might say something nice, like, "You look good, covered with vinegar. I wish I had more time to nap, given your age. It's good that you don't do what you do. Worry about staying current." On the surface, things could appear innocuous, even courteous, yet there's a silent message that you're not as good as Carl, you've changed since then. Jung frequently discussed the shadow in his writing. Concealed and frequently denied aspect of ourselves that harbors insecurity, jealousy, and rage. Those who are privately annoyed by you, your age or intelligence, will frequently convey that uneasiness by wearing veiled slurs. You're not referred to as slow, but they deliberately walk in front of you. Shouldn't claim to be forgetful, but they repeat directions as though you're unable to follow them. These behaviors are not innocuous. Power struggles disguised as helpfulness. Let me introduce you to Linda, who was 68 years old. Formerly the life of every party, intelligent, humorous, and friendly, but with time, the daughter-in-law started creating small jokes to make fun of her during family. "Grandma, we should talk louder throughout supper. Memory is not functional after 6 p.m. Everyone chuckled, and Linda forced a grin. But there was usually a jab in the rhythm. Regarding her age, style, and pace, outright insults, only a subtle deterioration of dignity, week after week, till Linda ceased attending the dinners, but not because despite her lack of love for her family, since she had to brace herself to be around them. She described it to me as another small jab. The remarks that caused the most pain was aware that nobody intervened to stop them from seeing how the shadow frequently escapes in jokes and sarcasm is merely taunting, but the unconscious mind is intelligent, it understands precisely how to vent the anger in methods that won't be explicitly mentioned. This is the cover for emotional animosity. Obvious sight, and when it occurs to you, you begin to question whether perhaps they weren't being overly sensitive. Intend it that way, but pay attention to anything that hurts. It's important. If someone constantly makes you feel inferior, obsolete, or irrelevant, it's not a coincidental that their problem is leaking. Jung would enter your place and tell us what we are unable to address ourselves. Cast themselves onto other people. Thus, if someone is worried about being helpless as you age or mortality, they can deal with it by making fun of those people. Exemplify it. It's simpler than confronting their own image in the mirror, which you don't exist to be someone's emotions. It's not embarrassing to age like a punching bag. It's not a failure to slow down. Resting and needing assistance or patience doesn't turn you into a burden or someone who makes you feel different, whether through direct insults or passive slights, even harboring a grudge they haven't even acknowledged to themselves. If you continue to view this video, I hope you find these insights useful. Please let me know in the 4th comment below. If you haven't already, you're here. Subscribed, but I advise you to do so. And press the bell to ensure you don't miss it. Your assistance with any videos is helpful to us. Keep producing informative, high-quality articles. And motivate you. Now, let's go. Sign 5. They don't show happiness when something positive occurs in your life. There's an odd quietness that descends when someone close to you harbors a secret grudge. You're the one who makes it louder. Thriving, you might offer some positive news or a new pastime you've taken up, or even something as basic as, "The garden is at last flowering," and rather than a "when you say, smile," or "congratulations," a blank nod, or worse, a sudden shift in topic, they simply aren't able to rejoice together. Carl Jung thought that jealousy was among the most imperceptible and damaging feelings, particularly among those who think they should love one another. Opposite, when someone observes you succeeding and they may feel trapped in a phase of life that elicit their unresolved fears. Rather than bending over and sharing your happiness, they withdraw, separate, or even discover techniques to minimize your achievements. George, for instance, is 74 years old and recently came back from a little fishing trip. It had been a journey with some old pals. Years since he took action solely for himself, and he returned with a smile when he discussed it with his kid in the hopes of sharing. His youngster responded with delight, must be it's pleasant to be free of obligations. Smile without any interest, simply a small George retracted his approval, saying he thought he had done something incorrectly. Just by being joyful, this type of reaction can cause you to doubt yourself. Was I insensitive, or did I boast? However, the truth is that a loved one wishes to observe that you like life, particularly later in life, if your contentment doesn't make it uncomfortable for someone else. Concerning you, it's about the ease with which they feel pleased to see you happy, while their people who hate you won't usually shout, taunt, or confront you. Instead, they punish you by remaining silent and uninterested. Without happiness, and over time that absence is so burdensome that it makes you reluctant to shine and reluctant to share, but you weren't created to be dim. So that no one else feels your light. Young people who were insecure wrote that one of the greatest difficulties facing humans' relationships is to genuinely experience happiness for someone else without allowing our own. If someone is close, shadows get in the way. Constantly avoids making eye contact with you when you are content, you don't ask questions. When you're thrilled or just appear to when you're feeling low, they could not be there. Intentionally hate you, but there your subconscious is ensuring your happiness. Doesn't surpass their suffering, and that's not your fault. Becoming older means acquiring the ability to safeguard your emotional space. Your physical well-being is as important as it is a necessity rather than a luxury. One of the final things we need to learn is to defend. Thus, if someone is unable to applaud you or unable to sit or share with you by your side without flinching when you feel alive, yet it's quiet and not loving. Avoid allowing resentment to infiltrate your self-esteem. You deserve your happiness. Every moment, every tiny victory, every grin of satisfaction, it's holy, and nobody obtains it from you by shrugging or sixth. They only make contact when they require one of the most obvious. Silent indications of hidden hostility. Transactional, you cease to be a person in their lives and begin to transform into a resource that people hardly ever visit simply to talk. They don't inquire about your feelings. But when they unexpectedly require something, they now remember your number. Clearly, supporting one another is a component of despite being human. Carl Jung thought that when a person engages with you exclusively, when it helps them, it shows a projection. You're not visible to them. You're giving them what they want. They believe that you are not a whole person. You're a person with wants, boundaries, and emotions. Function. This dynamic gets more typical as we get older. For some people to observe an elder sibling or parent friend grows. Growing older triggers a mixture of guilt, annoyance, or perhaps repressed rage. They might object to your apparent independence. Or just the reminder, or your neediness that they revise because they will also age. When I call, the relationship you help me with, however, remain in the background and let me give you an example. Elaine is 80 years old. Lives alone, remains intelligent and healthy, but she moves a little more slowly. Her niece now only calls when her children require child care or when she's lacking funds for school supplies. No birthday call is ever made. Elaine said, simply, "How are you today?" No, she wasn't feeling well and appeared to be that quiet. No check-in, no follow-up. 3 weeks passed before the phone rang again. Later, this leaves a person with another favor. Feeling steadily unwelcome and used without being noticed, and this is where psychology comes into play. Darker when someone harbors a secret grudge against you. They might defend these transactional actions against themselves. They have nothing. What else is going on? He's retired. Does he find these justifications useful? They steer clear of guilt in a way that reflects their uneasiness onto you. Make you the issue by being overly attached. Too accessible, but connections are not bank accounts. If an individual only earns withdrawals but never deposits spiritually, emotionally, or just via generosity, it isn't a partnership that gradually deteriorates respect, and it's crucial that you are permitted to have higher expectations. To desire genuine caring, warmth, and connection, utility alone does not define you. Neediness is a sign of humanity. Thus, if someone near you only appears when they desire anything and vanishes as you if you need anything, don't dismiss it as simply the way things are. That pattern could be expressing a silent reality that lies behind the love you have, which has been replaced by shallow resentment. You deserve better than to be required. You should be respected. If you're still viewing this video and discovering these excellent insights, kindly provide the comment number. Tell me you're here at 6 below, and in case you haven't signed up yet, I advise you to sign up and activate the bell to ensure that you don't miss any of your support. It enables us to keep producing quality material to educate and motivate you right now. Let's proceed in sign 7, who deny or make fun of your values and pleasures. Compared to others, this one goes deeper because it conceals itself beneath light-hearted remarks, and when someone close to you laughs quietly, they start making fun of the things that bring you happiness or, worse, the values that were helpful influence your life. It's frequently not merely it's a joke that reflects something. Carl Jung has written a lot about deeper regard for the human shadow, the components of we ourselves don't want to acknowledge the emotions that we project onto or push down others. They are the most prevalent types of it is mocking to project when someone disparages or mocks something that is sacred to you, your beliefs, your habits, and your decision to put on clothes even if your only remaining at home might not be about you at all. It could all be related to the animosity they contribute to their own aging process or the pain they get when they see someone who has reconciled with it. For instance, let's talk about Harold, a retired 84-year-old. A music educator who continues to play the piano each day and goes to church on Sundays. It helps him feel more centered. Related, but his 50-year-old son keeps making fun of him. What's the point? You now believe that God is keeping score, and you're still wearing clothes at your age. To play the piano in the living room alone. These may seem like innocuous jokes. However, they gradually erode the genuine. Their message isn't one of humor, rather, it's uneasiness or even youthful jealousy. They would remark, "This son is not amused at his dad is giggling over the portions he hasn't made amends with, the aging, the absence of self-control, and the spiritual separation." Consequently, rather than battling his own internal turmoil, he makes fun of the man who has achieved peace. And this is what happens when your beliefs or when your pleasures are disregarded. You are ridiculed. Start to get smaller. You might quit sharing tales. You might no longer discuss what you cherish, and gradually, without being aware of it, it makes you smaller in their presence. That isn't accompanied with affection or regard, and it's definitely not a secure relationship. However, this does not imply that all casual jokes are motivated by hate, but if there is a pattern, if you consistently express it and it's greeted with sarcasm or Carl Jung, don't overlook the disdain. Thought that the shadow would only increase when neglected in relationships, and without acknowledgement it manifests in these silently excruciating. You have the right to feel dismissed. Proud of your convictions and your routines of your everyday pleasures, which you have earned. After years of living and not knowing and surviving, nobody has the right to disparage that. Not even a close, genuine love ever disparages its honors, even when it lacks comprehension. And if someone in your life consistently compromises the items that make you happy, it could be time to take a step back and inquire as to why they must. Turn down the light so you can feel at ease, and you deserve better than your own skin. That you should be allowed to be who you are. Complete and unreservedly final thinking that growing older isn't only about creases or sluggish movements. It's all about become more conscious and sensitive to the silent patterns of how we are treated by others, and occasionally the most excruciating. The body isn't the focus of realizations, rather regarding the individuals we previously trusted. With Carl Jung remarked, until you bring the unconscious to awareness, it will direct your life. You will name it that if you guide your life, fate. That reality is more important now than ever, since if we don't pay attention to these unnoticed indicators, the jokes that hurt, the assistance that degrades, the quiet that separates us, and the danger of normalizing actions that detract from our peace in your personal life, if you were able to identify even one of these 7 indicators, you're waking up, not overreacting. And that's strong because it indicates that you still possess the ability to set limits. Keep your heart safe and distance yourself from individuals who might have the same last name as you but not your health. The knowledge that age-related changes are not limited to what we understand and that it concerns what we no longer. We don't owe anyone a blind, so we can endure. What we owe ourselves for forgiveness is dignity, clarity, breathing space, and keep in mind that kindness does not imply you can love people despite being blind. You may forgive without distance. You can stand tall when you return to the fire. Thank you, even if it means standing by yourself. We appreciate you coming today, and we'd love to listen to you. Please write a comment below and tell us one item you discovered today and how you intend to apply it to your life. We value our thoughts, therefore, don't be afraid to share your comments. They provide us with a lot of inspiration and encouragement. If you found this video entertaining, you thought it was useful, please like, share your support and subscribe. Keep us producing quality information to educate and motivate you. Thank you for observing, and we anticipate seeing you in the upcoming video.